Today is day 240 where my mate Heun Wah has asked for a Cantonese style family dinner. And today I'm gonna give it to him. Now, normally I do these requests in my short format videos, but I could not do this justice doing it in a 1-minute video. So we've done a long format video instead. We've got 5 dishes to run through. And I think the best way to think of this respectfully is like a Sunday roast in England. Family dinner where they have a lot of dishes on the table and they all tuck in. And the last dish is my absolute favorite. It's also Mitch's favorite. So make sure you stick around right to the end to check that one out. But first up, a tomato and egg stir fry. Seems kind of weird, but it's absolutely delicious. Let's get stuck in. First thing we need to do is to blanch and peel these tomatoes. The thing with Cantonese cooking is it's all about letting the flavor or the flavors of the ingredients shine. So we're not gonna like heavily season anything. We're gonna use a bit of light soy sauce, some oyster sauce, some ginger, some scallions, nothing crazy. So first up, you're gonna cut the core out of the top of the tomato. And then we're gonna simply score an X in the bottom. Now we're just gonna blanch these in boiling water for 30 seconds. And we've got ice water ready. Once the skin starts to come up, they're good to go. Straight in the ice water. Now we're gonna peel these. Super simple, it should come straight off now. We're just gonna dice these into kind of pretty large chunks, like that size. One of the reasons I think this dish works so well is that tomatoes are full of natural MSG. Next up, the ginger. Peel it with the back of a spoon or the back of your knife. And we're just gonna slice it thin one way and then at a slight angle back the other way. So you get little battens of ginger. Now that amount there is probably enough for this recipe, but I am gonna cut the rest of it because we'll need it for another recipe. Why do something twice when you can just do it once? All right, eggs, got 6 eggs in a bowl. And then just beat with a fork. The only other thing we need to get ready is a corn flour slurry. Heaped teaspoon corn flour and 2 to 3 times that amount of cold water. All this does is help thicken the sauce, then it will stick to the ingredients better. So it's pretty simple to cook. We're gonna cook the eggs separately first. So wok nice and hot with a good amount of oil. I'm gonna use peanut oil for all these recipes, but you can use whatever high temp oil you want. I just wouldn't use olive oil, the flavor's a bit strong. You want something neutral in flavor. Watch me get all smart and then burn myself. Don't be silly, be careful with oil. In the hot oil. And then all I do is when it seems like it's cooked on the bottom, pull it back and then that raw egg goes on the bottom and then you're done, if that makes sense. Pretty bad explanation, apologies. And if you've got a really nicely seasoned wok and it's hot, it won't stick. Cool, once that's like that, we're ready, take it out, wok back on the heat, a little bit more oil, not too much, and let that get back to up to temp. Tomatoes in. Ginger, good pinch of salt, and we're looking to just cook these tomatoes through. We don't want them super soppy. Teaspoon of brown sugar, heaps teaspoon. A little bit of white ground pepper, corn flour slurry. It's gonna thicken our sauce nicely. Eggs back in, break them up a little bit, and there we go, first dish done. Did I make a mess? No. Tomato and egg stir fry. Next up, choy bok, oyster sauce, crispy garlic. I wanted to do kai lan. I could not find anywhere. I went to every store on the Sunshine Coast. So we're gonna do choy bok with the same garnish. Crispy garlic, and oyster sauce. Finely chopped garlic into a wok, medium heat, and a decent amount of oil. We're just trying to toast this. We want good golden color. So just watch this really carefully. You want nice golden color. Take it out about 30 seconds before you think it's gonna be ready because it'll keep getting color once it comes out of the wok. Once it's up to temperature, turn it right down. You want to do this slowly. You don't want to rush this or you'll burn it and it will go bitter. While that's happening, we're going to start prepping this. I've got a pot of water on the back boiling. It's going to take the greens off and you can be as pedantic about that as you want. In the restaurants, you'd kind of go really pedantic about it. Here, I don't bother. I'm at home. I'll keep the greens there and then I'll cut that twice. Same length. So you've got the whites and then the greens. 1, 2, 3. So we're gonna blanch the whites for longer than the greens because they're gonna take a lot longer to cook. Just make sure that center core bit is broken up. Whites in, boiling salted water. All right, when you get your garlic to this point, take it out onto paper towel, but leave the oil in there. This will all happen pretty quickly. Oyster sauce, you can use vegetarian if you don't wanna use the real stuff. 3 tablespoons. Shaoxing cooking wine, 2 tablespoons. A little bit of light soya, helps if you take the top out. Smooth. Give that a little stirry stir. A little bit of sugar, teaspoon. I like using brown sugar, that molassesy flavor. Lends itself better to savory food. All right, once that's kind of thickened and looking luscious, heat off, and it's time to get our greens in the pot for not even 30 seconds. In they go. Real quick blanch. Drain really well. into the wok. Turn the heat back on, but just on low, stir the sauce through. Now you'll see the sauce will struggle, even though that was nice and thick and luscious, struggling to stick to the veggies. This is why we use corn flour slurry. You gotta cook it out though for it to thicken. Once it's all nice and shiny like that, it is good to go. I like to be fancy and kind of line everything up nicely, but you can kind of just dump this on the plate if you are in a hurry or don't feel like being fancy. I actually also much prefer kailan for this. It's the same recipe effectively, but the kailan will take a lot longer to cook in the boiling water. Make sure you get all that sauce on the bottom of the wok, and we're gonna finish with our crispy garlic. Delicious choy bok, crispy garlic, and oyster sauce. Next up, prawns and vermicelli. Now you want raw prawns for this. You can use whole ones, which I like, because then we get to pull the heads off and keep them to make the sauce. Then we're just gonna peel the bottoms or the tails. Now I'm gonna cheat and not use the shells from the tails or the bodies for the sauce, because they're a pain to pick out and the heads are kind of easy. But we will peel this off, leave the tail on because they're pretty, and then take the poo shoot out of the back. Little soft incision through the back, find that little guy, pull it out, or make sure you get it all in the bin. Keep the heads. If you don't want to do that, fair enough, buy the raw peeled prawns. Fun fact about prawns, it's actually probably better to buy frozen prawns most of the time, because fresh ones are kind of hard to get. Most of the big prawn trawlers freeze them on the ship anyway, so they're as fresh as they're going to be. If you do live somewhere where there is boats that go out for fishing for prawns, then you probably can get really nice fresh ones that haven't been frozen. If you don't live there anywhere like that, I suggest you just buy frozen ones and defrost them yourself, because if you buy them defrosted already, I reckon 99.9% of the time they have been frozen and the fishmonger has just defrosted them. Fun facts with Andy. Also worth mentioning, we're kind of doing this recipe by recipe. I think it's easier to follow as the viewer. If I was to actually cook this meal, I'd have all the ingredients ready, everything prepped, and then I'd start cooking stuff, and that way everything's gonna be hotter. Now we've got our prawns prepped. It's time to make the sauce for the vermicelli. It's gonna go on the bottom of our pot. So back to the wok. Here's one I prepared earlier. On the heat, a little bit of oil, prawn heads, twink, twink, twink. The whites of the spring onions, ginger. Just give those heads a little mush. Dazz can't even look. A little bit of water, oyster sauce, soy sauce, white pepper. Give that a mix, a little bit of sugar, pinch of salt. We're just gonna cook this down till it thickens slightly, but this time we won't really need to use a corn flour slurry, because we want the vermicelli to soak up all this delicious goodness. All right, at this point, I'm gonna start pulling these prawn heads out. They've done their duty. We salute you, thank you for your service. Turn the heat off the wok. Now we've just got a really nice sauce. Now we've got vermicelli noodles that we've soaked in cold water for 20 minutes. Drain them well and into the sauce. So the heat's still off. We don't want to turn the heat on because these are going to cook once we steam. Vermicelli cooks really quickly, so these will actually probably cook just from the residual heat of the sauce, but they'll finish cooking when we steam this whole dish once we kind of assemble it. All right, I'll put this to one side. So we're gonna start by bulking this out with some bok choy. So I kind of like to layer it so that the greens go up the sides. So we've got like a good base of the white part. Also, that means that that's closer to the heat, so it's gonna steam and cook for longer. Stunning, happy with that. Happy, happy, very good. Next goes our vermicelli, now delicious sauce in the center. Stunning, stunning. And now we put our prawns on, all the tails in the center. Good looking dish, this one. Now all we do is pour about 2 tablespoons of Shaoxing wine in the bottom, and that's what's gonna steam our prawns. So let's get that on. Oh, she's hot. Maybe turn the flame on once it's on there, that'd be smart. And then cover it with something so that it steams. You can do it in like a steaming basket behind, but I think this way kind of works better. Or if you just did it in a pot with a lid, you could do it as well. You don't feel like you need to rush out and buy one of these. We're gonna steam these for 8 to 10 minutes. And they're good to go. And this is one of those great dishes that you can get it ready to this point and then cook it last minute while you're finishing off those last other dishes so that everything comes to the table nice and hot at the same time. All right, that's been steaming for 6 minutes, not even. And I reckon we're pretty close. Woohoo, stunning. Now be careful, this is obviously really hot, so don't just put this on the table, put it on a plate first. So we're just gonna finish this with a few of the spring onion greens. So there it is, our prawns with vermicelli. Next up, the beef with ginger and onion. Now you may or may not have noticed that the print that usually lives behind me has changed. Now these prints are from a fantastic company called Food for Everyone that donate 10 meals to people in need with every one of these prints sold. And I was really privileged to have one done of my Nana's Chicken a la King recipe, which is also in my cookbook. So if you like this print, you can get it in a frame, you can get it just as a poster itself. And every time you buy one, 10 meals get donated to people in need around the country in Australia. So if you like it, go grab one. The link will be down in the bio below. Description below. But it's time to do the beef and onion and ginger. Beef, onion, ginger, I guess that's what it is. Flank steak works well. You can use sirloin, rump if you wanted to, but flank works really well. And we're gonna slice it nice and thin. Thing with flank steak, you've got to cut it against the grain. You've got the grains quite clearly and obviously running this way. You want to cut against that so we don't have chewy, tough meat. Now I'm not going to velvet this meat or anything. I'm just going to fry it straight off because it should be pretty tender. If you are using a tougher cut, you can velvet it, but I think this kind of works fine. We need an onion. We want a relatively large dice. Once through the middle and then 6 times like that. That was 7. Spring onions. I like to keep these pretty chunky in the stir fry, about that size. And we're going to cut all the way up, including the greens, and we'll put that through as well. Ginger, same as before, nice little battens. This is about twice as much as you're gonna need for this recipe, but I'm gonna do it all because we're gonna need it for the last recipe as well. Maybe don't use a big knife like this, just doesn't feel very practical or safe. The other thing we really need is a cornflour slurry and obviously our sauces. We can start cooking. Wok on heat, high heat, oil in, a decent amount. So we're gonna keep the seasoning of this really light. We've got a little bit of soy sauce, a little bit of oyster sauce, the ginger, a little bit of white pepper, and that's it. Once your wok is ripping hot, carefully lean over it. Don't lean over it. Put your onions in. Stir fry those for about 1 minute. Want a little bit of color on the outside, a little bit of char, wok hay, you could call it. Break them up if they need to be broken up. A little bit of color there, get our beef in. This is gonna all happen pretty quickly. We're gonna get our ginger in too. We're just gonna incorporate this, make sure the beef's broken up, and then we'll leave it for a second so that we don't stew the meat and we get a bit of color on it. And don't be afraid to add a little bit more oil if you think it needs it. The oil will help your beef get good, better color. Meat's almost cooked. I'm gonna add the soy sauce to the outside. Same with the oyster sauce, a little bit of pepper, not too much. The spring onions, give that a toss, or make a mess. Especially with flank steak, you do not want to overcook this cut of meat or it will go tough. Cornflour slurry, stir that through. Now if your stir fry is starting to get a little bit dry, don't be afraid to put a dash of water in and then just toss that through. You want there to be sauce at the bottom of this. You don't want it to be completely cooked through, but that's it. That's that stir fry done. Serve it up. Just a few pieces of fresh ginger at the end. That's more for the fragrance. That heat's gonna kind of open that ginger up and you'll smell it really nicely. A couple of spring onion greens just to be chefy. And there we go, beef and onion with oyster sauce. The 5th dish, it's a steamed fish with ginger, some spring onions and a really nice light sauce. So I've got a fish from my local fishmonger. This is what we call a gold band snapper. You can kind of use any fish you want really, but a white fish works kind of the best. I'm gonna cut off all the spiky bits at the top. A good pair of kitchen shears is invaluable. Kitchen tips by Andy. Don't get yourself spiked with one of those because they usually got poison on them, they hurt. Kitchen tips by Andy. Cut these guys off the bottom. Cut the tail off, flip it over, same on the other side. Oh, there's another one. He almost got away. He almost snuck in there. Gotcha. Just double check for any extra scales left on there. This one's pretty good. Score the flesh 5 times on both sides. This is gonna be the plate that we're gonna serve it on. We're also gonna steam this fish on here. On the plate it goes, ginger goes on. I'll be honest, that ginger is probably a little bit chunky. Not your best work, Andrew. To the steamer. So we got a steaming basket here with a lot of water underneath it. Nice and hot, big rolling boil. And the whole plate goes, be careful, that's hot. Steam burns hurt. Hopefully this fish fits in just. Lid back on, and we're gonna steam that. We'll check it in 10 minutes. All right, we're gonna cut a couple of spring onions. Kind of actually only really want the greens for this one. So keep the whites or the white end for something else. Push them down flat, slice them nice and fine. For the sauce, we got a little saucepan, a little splash of water, light soy sauce, Shaoxing cooking wine, teaspoon of brown sugar, just a little dash of oil. On the heat, now it doesn't need to be long, we're just trying to heat the sauce up and dissolve the sugar. 10 minutes later and our fish is ready. Gonna really carefully pull this whole plate out. Use tongs or something, that plate will be hot. It's gonna discard the liquid that's come off the fish. Trying to keep all that ginger though. Oh, looking good. Pour on the sauce that we made. Delicious, stunning. Now we're gonna add some peanut oil to that pan again. Maybe 3 tablespoons. I'm gonna get that ripping hot. I'm gonna put some spring onions on our little fish. Caleb's getting hungry, he's starting to make noises up there. We take that hot oil, pour it straight over. Garnish with a bit of coriander. Coriander's delicious. Feel sorry for people that think it tastes like soap. There we go. Beautiful steamed fish, ginger, some light soy sauce. Stunning. Now, it's time to eat. So there you go, a Cantonese style family meal. Big thanks to Heun Wah, and thank you for the idea of pulling these recipes together. Persistence paid off, and I can't wait to see what you're gonna start ordering next. Yum. This is definitely one to have a crack at, guys. Great Sunday lunch to kind of pull together for your friends or family. It's not that complicated. It seems like there's a lot of components, but as long as you're kind of prepared and you're ready and you've got all the ingredients, it's really not that hard to pull together. And of course, everything gets served with rice on the side. And if you need to know how to cook rice, I actually mentioned it in my video right here called Luru Fan, so go check that out. Thanks for watching, legends. Like this video if you took anything from it, subscribe if you're not, and we'll see you next week for another recipe. I think it's time for a new line, a new outro line. What do you think? Let me know, what should my new outro be? All right, come eat.